Good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Seamus Lennon. I'm the VP of Operations for ThreatLocker. We are a zero trust endpoint security solution. So today I'm going to talk about simplifying cybersecurity. And it's quite interesting because I was actually on the way in the car and I was speaking to my father on the phone. And he was like, "Did you see all these airports got taken out by cybersecurity?" And I was like, "Well, not really." I was like, "Okay, how do we explain a supply chain attack to a 74-year-old computer illiterate man?" I was like, He was like, no, the airports were definitely taken out. I was like, no. I said, look, so think of it this way. You use Netflix. Netflix works on all your machines. Now, if Netflix itself broken, doesn't mean that your machine is broken. It just means Netflix is broken. So then he sort of got around to, oh, right, well, it wasn't actually airports. But yeah, that's how you sort of simplify cybersecurity in an essence. So what we're all about is we're all about zero trust. Okay, zero trust at the endpoint. So with our solution, we do a number of modules, primarily application allow listing. Allow listing is not something that's new. It's been around for years. It's always been a headache to manage, a headache to maintain, a headache to implement. We do it nice and simple. So we just take the concept of let's allow what we need to run, and block everything else, all software, including ransomware. Because remember, ransomware is just software. Same as any other piece of software that you have running on your devices. It's just the intent in which it was written is completely different. Okay? So, when we're talking about locking down our environments and the reason why, if we go back a little, I'm in IT quite a long time. One of my first sort of experiences around a virus was this virus. Does anybody remember this virus? The most notorious virus ever. The I love you bug. And for anybody that doesn't know what it was, basically you received an email which had an attachment called iloveyou.vbs, and when you clicked on it, it sent the same email to every single contact. In 2000, 2/3 of the world's business computers were affected by this virus. Now, it wasn't malicious, thankfully, but that's all it did. Imagine if Tinder was around back then. It would have done really, really well. A lot of people needed a bit of love. But following on from that, we then had, a year later, the blaster virus. And again, the blaster virus was just somebody that was out there just to prove a point to Bill Gates that Windows wasn't secure. Again, nothing malicious. This thing popped up on your screen. That's all it was. And in the 2000s, that's what it was all about. But then they start realizing that they could actually make money out of this. So it came from just being something to prove to making actual money. So this is where we came up with botnets and adware and the dreaded spyware and spam. Oh, 2000s, you could not go a single day without having 400 emails to purchase Viagra in your inbox every single day. It was impossible. And spam and spam and spam and spam. But look, we started implementing spam filters. We got ahead of that. We start locking it down. But instead of just spamming people, threat actors realized that actually there is a way to make money out of this. Okay? And what it did was, it changed the paradigm of security. Because now that they had something to gain, it was worth investing in. Right now, cybersecurity and ransomware is worth billions. Even if you look from 2017, which was worth $19.4 billion, they were estimated by 2028, $1,816 billion is what it's worth. Okay, so that's the cost of cybercrime in the US. It's ridiculous. So, what can we do to stop attacks? Well, there is an answer to that, and it's an answer that everybody goes by. We've got frameworks and standards and lots of frameworks that we can implement. If you go by this framework, you're secure. If you implement ISO 27001, you're potentially secure. If anybody's gone through the ISO 27001 certification, you will know it's all about documentation. It's not actually about securing your environment. It's about documenting how you've actually secured your environment. Now, one of the things about frameworks is frameworks are very vague, as in, here's an example. I think it's from NIST 2. Configure the system to provide only mission essential capabilities. What's mission essential? Like realistically, is calculator a mission essential capability of a device? Does somebody need to use calculator? Do I have to block calculator? Do I only allow it for the finance department? Because nobody else actually really needs to use calculator. So even in this, the systems can provide a variety of functions and services. Some functions and services that are routinely provided by default may not necessary to support essential organizational missions, functions, or operations. It may be convenient to provide multiple services from a single system components. However, doing so increases the risk over limiting the services provided by any one component. Where feasible, organizations limit functionality to a single function per component. Okay, I'm over 25 years in IT and I haven't a clue what that means, okay? And that's the thing with frameworks. Always very vague and very, very vague. Now, here's the other problem with frameworks is, yes, we go through all of these frameworks and we implement all of this, and we have everything determined and everything's locked down. But guess what? 1 year later, a new framework comes out, a revision, and you have to go through it all again, same again. And that is the problem. So, this is about simplifying cybersecurity. So, think about it as your first 100 days in office, a bit like Donald Trump, which has done an awesome job, first 100 days in office. So, let's say your first 100 days to lock down your environment. Take it like that. You're a brand new CISO, you're looking to lock down your environment. We want to stop cyber attacks and make the life of cyber criminals as difficult as possible. Why do I say make it as difficult as possible? Because there is no silver bullet when it comes to security. Your job securing your environment is to make it as hard as possible so that they move on to somebody else. Simple as that. And that's what they will do. And this is all without actually killing the IT department's approval rating. You can lock down the whole environment and really annoy everybody. Or you can do it in a safe way and an easy way. Disable macros in Microsoft Office. 2025, there is no need for macros, ever. There is no need for them. It's funny because I used to work for a managed service provider, and we used to supply a legal software to all of our clients. And as part of that legal software, there was 2 requirements. One, the user had to be a local admin of the device in order to run the software and update it. Secondly, they had to be able to run macros, open macros in Office. A huge security breach today, but thankfully I don't work for that company anymore. So, but there is no need to have macros in Office. Password protected screensavers. This might sound very stupid and very simple. I had the misfortune of being hospitalized about 2 years ago. And as part of that, I had to see a consultant. And I was brought into the consultant's room. He said, yeah, look, sit down there in front of his computer. He's logged in, he's checking everything. He said, hang on a second, I have to go off and I'll be back. 26 minutes I'm sitting there and the screen still hasn't locked. It's open in front of me. And I'm saying to myself, this is not a good security. This is in a hospital that was part of the 2021 HSE breach. Still not locking down their devices. Okay? So by simply enabling a password protected screensaver, obviously, if somebody does remote onto that machine, they can't get into it. Disable SMBV1. Today, there's no need to have SMBV1 in your environment, on your network. The reason why we disable SMBV1 is Eternal Blue. Does everybody remember WannaCry back in the 2017s? That was the vulnerability, SMBV1. It was able to push out ransomware across the network over SMBV1 without even having to touch anything remotely. Disable Windows keylogger component. Everybody aware that Windows has a keylogger built into it? Yeah, built in. So if I remote onto somebody's machine, I can actually enable it and run it. Actually, in Windows 11, it's called a really good name. It's called Getting to Know You, for some strange reason. But if you run Getting to Know You, it will basically log everything that the user types into the machine. Again, if I'm a remote threat actor and I have access to a device, very simple, very easy. I mean, this is very straightforward. Dual factor on all remote accounts. So we generally do this for productivity software, the likes of Microsoft Office, Google Workspace. But even those domain accounts, if you're hosting a website at domain, that should be also protected. We see time and time again that websites do get attacked, and from there then they can spoof people's addresses and they can actually manipulate information very easy. But if you're not using MFA, you may as well just set your password to password. It's that simple. I mean, decryption of passwords can be done in a flash these days, so it doesn't need amount of time like it used to. Like a good, strong password, back when I started out, could have taken days to crack. Now it can be done in minutes and seconds. Turn on BitLocker on your servers. So every single Windows device comes with BitLocker built in, and most IT departments say, okay, we're going to enable it straight away. But they forget about the servers. We've seen time and time again where somebody gets into a hypervisor environment, and what they'll just do is they'll shut down all the Hyper-V machines, they'll load up the disks from the Hyper-Vs, they'll remove all the security software off them, then they'll boot them up, and then they'll encrypt them. Because they're not BitLocker enabled, they have full access to the actual drives. Applications. So, when it comes to a security breach, there's two ways somebody gets into an organization. One is through an open port on the internet, and secondly is an application. Doesn't matter what type of application it is. It could be misuse of a vulnerability in an application. It could be an application that somebody has downloaded. It could even be a reverse shell that somebody was duped into actually clicking and installing on the device. It's an application. Okay? If you can prevent unknown applications from running in the environment, you're taking away that chance of a breach completely. So knowing what is running. So if you know what is running and the actual vulnerabilities associated with that application in your environment, you can manage the risk around that application. Okay? When we're looking at applications, we'll identify everything down to the actual country of development. Okay? So if we block software, including ransomware, always give the users the ability to actually allow access to those, because there may be genuine applications. Actually, better yet, how about we create a full list of approved applications for your organization? Point users in the right direction. Instead of them downloading a free version of Nitro PDF or something like that, if we're paying for a license for a genuine PDF editor, point them in that direction. Allow them to actually install the applications they need. Prevent application interaction. You've probably seen the word ring fencing come up on this quite a lot, and it's something I didn't actually talk about, okay? But what ring fencing is, and one of the biggest issues when it comes to application allow listing is, most organizations that implement some sort of application allow listing cannot control the applications they have allowed to run. Okay? Every threat actor in the world knows that if they get onto a Windows device, PowerShell is available on that device. And the reason why PowerShell is available is from an application allow listing standpoint, you cannot block PowerShell. You could try, but you're going to break Windows. So when a threat actor gets onto a device where application allow listing is in place and has full access to PowerShell, they can do data exfiltration through PowerShell, data encryption, they can remotely execute code into the extended memory to run anything they like, to evade EDR tools. There's a nice repository on GitHub called Born to be Root. It's an IP scanning tool. But if you run it through PowerShell, it goes straight into extended memory. Your EDR doesn't see it running. Doesn't even know it's running. So threat actors will do this, and they'll scan the whole entire network, unbeknown to the actual security of it even being there. So what ring fencing is, it's the ability to control and restrict what the applications you have allowed to run can and cannot do. So we can say, okay, well look, we need PowerShell to run, but does PowerShell need access to all of my users' data? No, it doesn't. Let's restrict that. Does PowerShell need to interact with any other applications? No, it doesn't. Let's restrict that. Actually, does PowerShell need to even access the network or the internet? Possibly not. But if it does, we can make exclusions. It can go off to Microsoft and utilize Microsoft's web services for updates, but that's about it. We can take away administrators' rights. Now, time and time again, I always meet people and they would go, look, we removed all users' local admin rights, which means they don't have permissions to do anything. They can't install software, they can't do anything on their devices. Which I sit back and I go, that's really good. Taking away admin rights is a really good step towards securing your environment. However, as a standard user, that does not stop me from installing anything into my app data local folder that doesn't require admin rights. It doesn't stop me from running standalone applications. It doesn't stop me from installing any web browser extension that I like. It doesn't stop me from doing that. Yes, I can't install anything into the program files folder, but I don't need to. Even as a threat actor, I'm never going to do that because that's going to flag the EDR. I'll just utilize standalone applications or the users folder so it evades that. Doesn't need those rights. But again, we can't take away admin rights. Won't stop a ransomware attack, but it will help. So even if we do take away admin rights, we can allow users to run applications with those rights that they need, but only those applications, not the actual user. And we can do it safe and easy. And a network level, let's just block everything. Seems to be the easiest thing these days. However, we're going to break everything. So, as I said, block SMB by default. And this is what we generally do. When we push out ThreatLocker to an environment, we say, okay, for all your workstations, we're just going to block all SMB v1 ports. Actually, nobody uses SMB anymore. Nobody uses on-site servers. Everything's gone to the cloud. So why do we need to open up SMB v1 or SMB at all? In fact, Microsoft's ransomware report from 2024 stated that of those attacks that carried out full ransomware, 70% of them were remotely encrypted. In other words, there was another device on the network that encrypted everything over SMB v1. Okay. Block RDP ports. This is quite simple. There's no need for somebody to be logging into anybody's environment, so we can block ports 3389. But if we did need to allow access, let's allow access just the IT department. Now, this isn't just at a group policy level. This is at a device level. Okay. In other words, my single laptop can access port 3389 on that server, and that's it. Anybody else gets onto my network and does a full port scan on my server, 3389 doesn't exist. It's closed. It'll only open if and when required for me. Okay? Block outbound network traffic on servers. We'd love to be able to do this, but unfortunately we can't always because, we have Exchange, requires outbound activity. However, in 2016 with the Exchange vulnerability, that was a huge one. We've SolarWinds Orion, again, another major vulnerability, where SolarWinds reached out to a server in New Jersey and downloaded and executed malware over everybody's devices. Again, controlling access with ring fencing. We explained this one already. Controlling network access with ring fence. Again, PowerShell can go out to Microsoft, and that's about it. Block all inbound traffic. So we do this by default on every workstation that we bring into ThreatLocker. We just say, okay, what should be inbound connecting to our devices? Nothing. There is no need for an inbound connection on a standard user workstation, so we just block it. We also filter all web content. We can block access to malicious sites, explicit content. We can block access to anything. However, we will audit all that network traffic. So how this works with ThreatLocker is we will go ahead and we will deploy an agent out to each and every environment, and we will see everything that happens in that environment. Okay? Now, one of the biggest issues that we see recently is VPNs. There is a vulnerability. It's been published over a year, particularly with SonicWall SSL VPNs, where a threat actor can actually gain access, admin access to a device on the network through a vulnerability in those VPNs. Very simple and very easy. File access. Block USB drives. This is very simple and very straightforward. I did say at the start that this was going to be very simple. So in blocking all USB devices, we're going to stop any data exfiltration. Okay? Does everybody know what this is? USB device? It's actually not a USB device. This is what is called a USB rubber ducky. Okay? So to quote what it actually says, I think I have one in my pocket here, another one. USB rubber ducky. Looks like a flash drive, types like a keyboard. Okay? If I was to plug that into your device, it'll run a script as if I was sitting in front of your machine. Now, if I wanted to dupe somebody and get into somebody's network, all I could do is put a sticker on this and say confidential, payroll, finance. Somebody's going to plug it in. They will plug it in. Actually, recently I was at a Carton event and we do live demonstrations of these and how these can be utilized in an attack. And at the end of it, I said, look, if anybody wants to take on the challenge and see if we can exfiltrate your data, come up to the boot layer, I'll be there, and we'll see how strong your security is. So these two guys from Danish guys come up and they said, look, we'd like to take on the challenge. We've got MDR, we've got XDR, we've got EDR, we've got data protection policies in place, we've got everything locked down. There is no way you're exfiltrating data from my machine. So I said, right, turn on your laptop, connect to the internet, plug this in, and absolutely nothing happened. I was like, shit, this has gone wrong. I was like, okay, actually, what's your language in your operating system? He's like, it's Danish, of course. Why wouldn't it be Danish? I was like, okay, everything I've written on this is for English. It's not going to work. The guy standing beside me went, mine's in English. We can plug it into mine. I said, okay, plug it into his. I open up my Google Blob storage and start seeing all of his files. Nothing stopping it. Nothing whatsoever. Unplugged the device, cleared out all of his data. They went off not happy whatsoever. They come running up to the boot and say, hey, Seamus, we just got a notification of a data breach. I was like, hey, lads, that was an hour and 40 minutes ago. What's going on? They were like, yeah, I know. Needless to say, they use ThreatLocker now. So the simple fact that we were able to use PowerShell on his device to exfiltrate all of his data without anything flagging within time was the reason. If they had utilized ring fencing and stopped PowerShell from accessing the data in the first place, that would have never happened. I'm going to flick through all of these because I am running out of time. I talk really slowly, so I always end up flicking at the end. So, patching. This is very important. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So don't patch out. Actually, believe it or not, we had a guy that used to manage servers, and he came into us and we were like, okay, well, what patch are you on at the moment? He's like, I don't patch my servers. There's vulnerabilities and patches, so I'm not going to patch any of the servers. He believed in not patching his servers was the best thing and the safest thing for him. However, it's not. Patch everything. We can also do third-party patching. And don't forget about firewalls, particularly sonic walls. Have been hit quite a lot. Patch everything. Monitor for own patches, 24/7, SOC, MDR. We also offer this as a service. Okay. ThreatLocker enables you to deliver seamless technology to your users while blocking what is not needed, including cyber attacks. That's one of our mantras. Okay? Quite simple, quite easy. I won't go through how we actually do all this. Very simple, very easy. Allow what you see, block everything else, give users alternatives. If you have not come across ThreatLocker before, we do a number of webinars around cybersecurity, a number of different ones. We've recently done 100 days to secure your environment. It was a weekly webinar. Now, it's not just ThreatLocker. It's about how you actually go about securing the environment. So there's different techniques that you can use in GPOs and Active Directory. That was, as you can see on the video, a very expensive drone that we were doing a demonstration of a pineapple, Wi-Fi pineapple, which ended up crashing into our CEO's window and broke. But if you haven't come across us before, look us up. We're all over the internet. Do check us out. Myself and the guys are outside. If you'd like to discuss anything more, please come and see us. We all dress the same. We all look the same. So thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.